So Black Phone 2 was directed by Scott Derrickson and once again features Ethan Hawke, Mason Thames, and Madeline McGraw. And in this movie taking place a few years after the events of Black Phone 1, Finney is now dealing with a lot of the trauma from his life. Meanwhile, Gwen is having some visions about this event that happened at this camp that happened a long time ago, and she believes they're connected somehow to the events of the first movie. So she and Finney go to this camp and basically have all these encounters with the Grabber once again. So this was a movie that I was kind of nervous about because the Black Phone seemed kind of open and shut. It seemed like there was nowhere you could go with this, so I was kind of surprised when I was like, oh, we're gonna make Black Phone 2. It's like, that kind of sounds like something you would see in the straight to DVD bin. It's like all these movies, like there was like one really successful movie, and then they tried to make all these sequels that didn't really match the first movie and send them straight to DVD right away. But it was encouraging that at least Scott Derrickson, who directed the first movie, was directing this movie again, and a lot of the people who were coming back from the first movie again. So it's like, okay, at least there's something here that kind of makes me a little excited. The trailers themselves looked a little okay-ish, but then again, I also thought the trailers for the Black Phone looked okay-ish. So this movie, honestly, I like it about as much as the first Black Phone movie. I thought there was a lot of creepy atmosphere. I thought the performances were really good. I kind of like some of the things they're talking about. Now, I do like the first Black Phone movie because the performances are really good and the atmosphere is really creepy. And I do think that the movie does those things really well. I feel like this movie does these things well as well. So let's talk about some of the things in this movie. First off, I thought the performances were pretty good, particularly from the two leads. Madeline McGraw, I thought she was pretty good here as Gwen again. I also thought Mason Thames was also pretty good as Finney again. Also, I liked Jeremy Davies in this movie. He was a cliche in the first movie. I didn't like his character at all, which, if you've seen the movie, you know who I'm talking about. But I do like his arc in this movie. It's like, it's not really talked about, but it's there. It's his arc is very interesting. I was actually kind of more impressed with that, what they were doing with his character, more than some of the other characters in this movie. I also do really like how they're talking about trauma in this movie. I do think it's very fascinating. Now, obviously, in horror movies, they talk about trauma a lot. And I feel like in this movie, it's at least fascinating because it shows, like, you know, how trauma can affect people. In some ways, it can really damage someone, but at the same time, trauma can also kind of try to make you a better person and such. I feel like this is a movie where it's like, it kind of shows both sides of it and like how people deal with it, so I found that to be very interesting for this movie. And I do think the movie is gorgeously shot. You can definitely tell at times like how certain scenes are being shot, which that's also kind of one of my negatives, which I'll talk about for a bit. But like when it's like a dream sequence, you can tell it's like a home video esque. It looks like a home video that you would see in Sinister, which was, you know, also directed by Scott Derrickson. So I thought the visuals looked very creepy. I thought this had another really creepy atmosphere throughout the entire movie, particularly once they get to the camp. It was kind of unsettling at times. Not, I wouldn't say it's as unsettling as the first movie was, but it's solid enough where it's like, if you're watching the movie, it's like, okay, I'm getting some creepy vibes from this movie. And I do think there are some very creepy moments in this movie. I would say that the creepy moments actually do get better in this movie, but I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit because that also kind of has to deal with my negatives too. But also, I do like expansion of this world. I do like some of the expansion of the ideas that were brought upon from the first movie. Obviously, it was more alluded to in the first movie. Something that was alluded to in the first movie is expanded a lot more in this movie. It's like, okay, I actually do think that how they tackle this subject is like very interesting, and I do think that it's actually well done in this movie. This could have easily been one of those movies that was just written off. Again, it could have been straight to DVD, but a lot of these people came back and they were like, okay, let's make a movie that's like as good as the first movie. Let's try not to make it a cash grab. Let's just try to make this a movie that actually feels like it actually needs to exist in this way, which I like. But let's talk about some of the things I don't like in this movie. First off, Ethan Hawke. Now, Ethan Hawke was very creepy in the first movie. Even so creepy that you didn't even have to see his whole face to be creeped out by him. This movie, you're not really creeped out by him because he's not really taking off the mask at all in this movie. And I don't even think you kind of see, this may be a brief spoiler, but I don't know if you can even see him throughout the entire movie. It's like, I kind of found that to be very disappointing. I'm like, Ethan Hawke couldn't come back, but I guess his voice could. So that was kind of disappointing. And also, there's something in the end credits, which you'll kind of see what I mean. Again, not trying to spoil it by any means, but there's something in the credits where I'm like, yeah, that kind of confirmed my suspicions, unfortunately. Also, I didn't like the use of the dreams for, like, the first, half of this movie, because in the dreams, you can definitely tell that's when the scary stuff is about to happen. So it's like, I guess I wasn't as scared because, it's a dream, so it's not really happening. but kind of like, not something like Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like it's happening in a dream, so it's happening in real life. So the world, it does kind of make sense, like how the grabber does come back through a phone and such. So I'm like, okay, that's at least kind of interesting. And definitely, the more I thought of it, it's like, okay, that does make a lot more sense. But I felt like when it comes to the dreams themselves, it's like it kind of took a lot of tension out of the room where I'm like, oh, it's a dream, so it's not entirely happening. It's not until like when the dreams and reality start to blur towards the end of the movie where it's like, okay, this is when it's actually getting creepy. Again, going back to what I said, that it does get creepier as the movie goes on, and some of the more and there are some more intense sequences towards the end of the movie, which I thought were more effective than the ones towards the beginning. And also, some of the new characters I did not really care for. I guess out of the new main characters, Damian Bashir has a few good moments here and there, but I felt like his character didn't really do much. I felt like a lot of the other side characters at this camp didn't really do much either. I kind of forgot they were even characters in this movie, but it's mostly focusing on Gwen and Finney throughout this entire movie. Mostly Gwen. Also, I do like this one small moment where it's like, you kind of like have this moment where Finney hears the phone for the first time in this movie, and it's like, okay, that's actually kind of cool how they did that scene. It's like, it shows like, it's gonna be a brief spoiler, but it's like, it's ringing, he answers it, and he's like, I'm not gonna help you, hangs up, but like, he walks away, then it cuts to show that that phone was out of order. It's like, okay, that was really cool. That's one of my favorite moments from this movie. So, as far as this movie goes, I actually did like it. There are some things about it that I don't really care for, but overall, I think this is a pretty good sequel to a movie that I felt like we didn't need a sequel to. But, I actually did need the sequel after all. So, the performances are pretty good for the most part, particularly from Madeline McGraw, particularly from Mason Thames. Also, Jeremy Davies surprises in a more expanded role in this movie. The themes of trauma are very interesting. There are some creepy moments here and there. The cinematography is very interesting. The expansion of the world is pretty good. There are some moments here and there where it's like, that was a pretty good moment you had there. But I don't like how they use Ethan Hawke in this movie. I don't like some of the new characters. I feel like the use of dreams is a little, I don't want to say distracting, but more, again, it kind of just removes a lot of tension when you kind of realize, oh, it's a dream. But you can also kind of tell when a dream is happening. But again, when it starts blurring the lines, that's when it actually gets creepy. I would recommend it. See it at some point. So I will give Black Phone 2 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what is your favorite horror movie sequel? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.